everyone. In this session, we quickly go through chapter 2 to chapter 9 on our textbook. During the live session, we've go through the C++ basics to arrays, and there are two remaining parts that I would like to continue to in this tutorial video. The first part is strings and vectors. For the string and vectors, we've talked about the strings. Right? In C string, right? C++ supports the conventional string representation. In other words, we use the char pointer or char array, right, to represent a string literal or a string variable. In C++, there are some native implementations about strings. One of them is the string object. So we have a class called string, and we can create string objects. String objects are convenient to use because we can use the, for example, the plus operator to concatenate two strings. We can also use string object to hold a line of text using the getLine method. We don't need to worry about the limit of the line buffer. So this is about strings. Then let's talk about vector. In C and C++, the conventional array is supported. The array has a limitation that when we create an array, the array size should be none. In other words, we allocate a fixed size memory block for that array at runtime. Once it is allocated, we cannot change its size. So this is array. Sometimes we don't know the exact size of an array, and we still like to have a storage space for storing and determining the number of data elements similar to an array, or just treat it as a sequence of data elements. In C++, the object vector, a vector object, can be used for this purpose. And since it's a sequence of values, we have some syntax that is similar to an array, such as the brackets. So we can use index and brackets to access individual data element. To use vector, we need to include the vector header. It is in the namespace std, and vector int v. This statement allocates a vector, okay, allocate a vector object called v. Its element type is int, so it's an integer. Okay, it represents a sequence of integer numbers, okay, and its size is flexible, so we can change its size at runtime without given any construction parameters. The initial size is 0, okay, no data inside. Then whenever you would like to add a data at the end of the vector, use the method pushback. Okay. We call pushback, and given the value will be appended to the vector. And we can use the size method to determine its size. When we want to access an individual element, we use the array syntax, because the brackets operator is overloaded. It's overloaded for supporting the array. supporting the vector. Okay, okay. Then while creating a vector, okay, we may supply an integer number. The integer represents the initial size of the vector. So by this statement, we create a vector called VF. Initially, there are 10 elements. Each element is initialized to the value 0. Okay. When using a vector similar to the case we use an array, pay attention to the size. There's no bound checking. Okay? No bound checking. So don't access out of range elements. The following three methods are related to efficiency. I think for beginners, we just learn and you don't need to really worry about the three, right? Because what we need to focus is to write the correct program. Okay? Capacity means the underlying allocated memory size, number of elements for storing the data. It's not the size. The size is used, the number of elements that is used in this vector. A value is stored in the capacity area. So you may simply consider that the capacity is greater than or equal to the size of the array. Okay. We may have an underlying capacity that is greater than the current needed. And we can use reserve method to change the capacity. We can use resize method to change the size. So reserve is set the capacity. Resize is to set to the given size. So they are different. Right? If you need to distinguish the two methods, please refer to the official API document. Okay? This the vector is in the standard library, so the API document is easy to access on the internet. So this is a quick introduction about vectors. When to use a vector. When you don't know the size, right, of an array, and you still want to have something like a size, like a variable length array, then use vector.